Hey guys, welcome back to Fantasy Tipped. My name is Julian, and this is the drops video for week 26 of the fantasy hockey season. This is your fantasy hockey finals, guys. So basically, anyone who is not producing for you right now is a cut, is a guy that you're going to be dropping. Why? Well, you don't have time to wait for these guys to turn it around. You need to win now. So if they're not producing for you, I'm dropping them in all likelihood, unless they're an absolute stud who's on a couple games of a cold streak. I'll give them a break then, but if anybody else, really, I'm going to be cutting them. Before we get started, guys, please leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and follow me on Twitter at FantasyTipped. Now let's jump into the content, and let's start with some forwards that you can consider cutting. First on the list, I have Bryan Rust of the Pittsburgh Penguins, 75% rostered, and honestly, he's been a stud all year. But lately, over his last 6 games, he only has one single point, and his shots on goal, which has been so consistent over the entire season, has fallen off a cliff. He's barely shooting the puck anymore, and he's not on a very good line. He's on a line with Zucker and Carter, which, I mean, isn't a terrible line, but definitely isn't as good as being with Crosby and Gensel on that top line like he has been most of the year. So that's definitely something that I don't love, his deployment, and he's not producing right now. So unless you're in like the deepest league where there's really nobody better available that's producing right now, I'm dropping Bryan Rust, unfortunately, just because he's not getting it done right now. Next is my Manscaped must-trim player of the video, Vincent Trocheck. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code word FANTASYTIPPED at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with the code word FANTASYTIPPED. It's time to throw out your old hygiene habits and upgrade your life with Manscaped. Now, why is Vincent Trocheck my Manscaped must-trim player of the video? Well, honestly, guys, it's pretty simple. I lost a couple leagues myself just because of Vincent Trocheck. The dude has been absolutely brutal in the playoffs. He was great pretty much all year, but now he is really cold. Over his last 10 games, he has a single point. That's it. His peripherals have still been okay, but that is not good enough to win you your league. You need guys that are actually putting up points, and Trocheck right now is not doing that, and that's why he's been a major disappointment throughout these playoffs, and that's why at this point he's a drop, because he is not performing for your team. And if you manage to get through your fantasy semifinals and quarterfinals with this guy in your lineup, good for you, because he was absolutely brutal, but now is a time to drop him. And then I have Tage Thompson of the Buffalo Sabres. And Tage Thompson's actually someone who's been pretty hot. But the Sabres don't play until Thursday, which is a long time from now. And they also don't play a lot of games. This is a double week. It's 2 weeks long, and the Buffalo Sabres only play 4 games in that 2-week span, whereas the Seattle Kraken have 8 games, which is literally double the amount of games. Now, I do understand that Tage Thompson specifically is really hot right now, so if you do want to keep him, you can. If you think Tage Thompson is going to get more points in 4 games than a player that you're going to pick up is going to get in 6, 7, or 8 games, then yeah, keep Tage Thompson. But just keep in mind that he doesn't play a lot of games, and that's why him and pretty much all the other Buffalo Sabres that are out there, I am dropping this week. Then I have Carter Verhaeghe of the Florida Panthers, and he's playing on the best team in the league on the top line with Barkov, one of the best players in the league, and he's not managing to put up that many points, which absolutely, honestly, blows my mind. He only has 2 points in his last 6 games. And honestly, if there's anybody out there that's better than him that could possibly put up some more points for you, who's on more of a streak than him, yeah, I might consider them instead of Verhaeghe. Florida also plays 7 games this week, which is great, but they play on all the busy nights. So go ahead and check your schedule. Are you going to be benching Verhaeghe pretty much every night anyway? If you are, it may be worth swapping him. Obviously, the upside is definitely there playing with Barkov. So if there isn't anybody out there that's better than him, and you will be playing him on those nights, then absolutely, I'm keeping Carter Verhaeghe. Obviously, there's always a chance that he puts up a point playing with Alexander Barkov. Then I have Tanner Jeannot of the Nashville Predators, 53% rostered, and it's now 6 games he's gone without a point, which is not great. Obviously, if you're in a hitting league, he's still putting up some really solid hits numbers, so he'll give you that safe floor, so he's not necessarily a drop in those leagues. But in a league without hits, Jeannot is someone that I do not like right now because he's just not producing, and If he's not producing for you, he doesn't belong in your lineup in the fantasy finals. Then I have Jean-Gabriel Pageau, who is someone that I pointed out as a potential league winner last week. My goodness, was he ever disappointing. He was so hot going into the week and then went 3 straight games just posting donuts, no points at all, which is honestly pretty disappointing for anybody who did pick him up. Myself included, I thought he was going to be great this week. At least he put up some decent hits numbers. Hopefully that was enough to push you over the edge and get you that win last week if it was your finals or semifinals. And now it's a time to drop him though, because he's cold at this point and we're not going to be riding a guy who's not producing. And I have Brendan Gallagher of the Montreal Canadiens, who was someone also to add last week because the Habs played on those really nice off nights, and the other nights were just so busy that you kind of had to add those off night players like Gallagher. He's someone who also didn't produce at all, which was super disappointing, and obviously at this point is a drop. Then I have Jake DeBrusk, who was on a pretty nice streak, but he has now gone 4 straight games without a point, and he is a streaky player. He's shown that he's gone on really big highs and really bad lows. So I'm not going to be riding this guy for the fantasy finals. It's not worth the risk to me. He's probably not going to do anything. And then I have Evan Rodriguez of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Honestly, he's been pretty bad this whole second half of the year. Was really amazing in the first half when the Pens had all those injuries and he had to step up. But now that the Penguins are more or less healthy, Rodriguez is not someone that I love having in my lineup. He's just not doing enough to merit a spot. And then I have Matthew Joseph of the Ottawa Senators, 14% rostered, was actually playing really well on that top line, was putting up a lot of points, but it looks like he could miss the rest of the season. And unless you do have an IR plus spot that you could use on him, it's not really worth hanging on to him. Jumping into defensemen now, and first on the list is Aaron Ekblad of the Florida Panthers. Odds are he's not going to be coming back this year. If you have the IR space, you might as well hold on to him, I guess, because he could return for the last game or two. But if you don't have the IR room, there's no point holding on to Aaron Ekblad. He's probably not going to come back. Then I have Dougie Hamilton of the New Jersey Devils, and I've been saying for weeks, just ride him. He's one of the best defensemen in the league. He's bound to turn it around at some point. Well, he's been brutal, and they actually have put him back on the top power play, and even though they've done that, he still has not been able to produce. And at this point, I have to say, if you're in the fantasy finals and you're going to be relying on him, it's hard to hold on to Dougie Hamilton. Obviously, if you're in a super deep league and there really is no better defenseman out there, you're going to have to cross your fingers and hope that Dougie Hamilton turns it around, because you know that he can. He's someone who can put out a whole bunch of points in a week, but it's just a matter of, will he actually turn it around? If you're in a shallower league and there are some pretty decent defensemen out there, it may be worth swapping him out for one of those. If you're in a super deep league, just cross your fingers and hope for the best. Then I have Drew Doughty of the Los Angeles Kings, and he's going to be out for the rest of the year, so drop him. And if you need someone to add Sean Durzi, because he is the power play 1 guy in LA now. And then I have Erik Karlsson of the San Jose Sharks, 49% rostered, and he is dealing with the day-to-day injury. He's not been placed on IR yet. We don't really know the extent of it. So if you don't have an IR spot, it's probably worth dropping him, because it's not really worth wasting a roster spot for him when we don't know how long he's going to be out for. And then I have Tyler Myers of the Vancouver Canucks, 13% rostered, and I get it. Over his last 3 games, he does have a couple of assists. He puts up okay peripherals, but what I found out recently is that in ESPN, Tyler Myers is owned in over 60% of leagues, which I thought was an absolute joke. I had to do a double take, but apparently Tyler Myers is owned in over 60% of leagues in ESPN. He should not be rostered in over 60% of leagues. That's utterly ridiculous. Tyler Myers is not that good of a player. He's all right, but fantasy-wise, his peripherals are not exactly that great. He'll maybe put up 1 block, 1 hit, and 1 shot per game, and will occasionally put up a point, but he's definitely not someone that should be rostered in that high of leagues. If there's literally anybody better out there, I probably would swap him for them. And last but not least, we're jumping into goalies, and first on the list is Tristan Jarry of the Pittsburgh Penguins, still 85% rostered, but the dude will be out for the rest of the year, which means this week and next week, really. So he's an easy drop. So guys, free up your IR, drop Jarry, and if you do need a goalie to replace him, obviously grab Casey DeSmith. He will be the starter in Pittsburgh until the end of the season. And then I have Carter Hart of the Philadelphia Flyers, 49% rostered, and he's probably going to be out for the rest of the year as well, even if he does come back for the last game of the season, which I don't see happening. He hasn't exactly been that great this year, and he plays for a terrible team, so at this point, not really worth having Carter Hart on your team, even on your IR. Just make the room on your IR for somebody else. Then I have Mikko Koskinen of the Edmonton Oilers, 44% rostered, and while he hasn't been too bad, Mike Smith has just been absolutely insane. The dude's coming off of 2 consecutive shutouts. Yeah, Mike Smith right now is the starter in Edmonton. Unfortunately for Mikko Koskinen, he's not going to get a lot of starts this week, and that's why I'm dropping him. Make room for somebody else who's actually going to play. And then I have Cal Petersen in the Los Angeles Kings, 39% rostered. And he hasn't been that great lately. And the thing is, the Kings only do play 5 games over the course of week 26. That's not a lot of games. It's actually the second lowest after Buffalo. And with Cal Petersen not playing that well, Jonathan Quick is probably going to get 3 out of those 5 starts at the very least. So Petersen is going to get 2 starts over 14 days. That's not that great. So if there's anybody out there that's better, I would probably grab them. Unless you're in like the deepest league where you just absolutely need the goalie starts, I'm going to swap out Petersen. And last but not least, I have Karel Vejmelka of the Arizona Coyotes, 11% rostered. And he's actually not a bad goalie, but Arizona has just been so bad over these last couple weeks. Vejmelka is not even rosterable in one of those points leagues where the points are very generously given to goalies for saves. He's going negative there too. So really right now, Vejmelka is not an option in nets, unfortunately, and he's a drop. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. Please leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Hope you guys enjoyed the content today, and I'm wishing you the best luck in your fantasy finals, guys. I hope you win. I'll catch you in the next episode of Fantasy Tipped.